We're going to talk today about construction bids. More importantly, how to include cash flow as a major consideration in the bidding process. Look, if you think you're going to do projects today, finish them tomorrow, and get paid the next day, then you don't need to watch this video. But last time I checked in construction, that's not the way it works. My name is Scott Peper. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mobilization Funding, and for the last 10.5 years, we've been focusing specifically on cash flow and how to help construction contractors and other businesses work their cash flow into their bid proposals and be successful. And we're going to get right into it now. All right, first, cash flow in the bidding process. We all know during a project, we're talking about cash flow nonstop. We need more of it. We're not getting paid fast enough. We need more money now. If we were bidding projects as if we had all the cash on hand, and then all of a sudden we start a project and we don't have all the cash on hand and we're not getting paid as fast as we want, then why don't we talk about cash flow or consider cash flow in the project itself during the bidding process? Interesting question. I'm not sure why. I think it's because we just do it the way we do it for so long. But look, what I want to discuss with you is focusing on cash flow in the bidding process can help you not only make more money, it will help you actually win more jobs. And not only that, but the jobs you do win, you're going to be able to perform them significantly better because you'll have balanced and focused on what is the most critical item in a job, which is cash flow. Not just price, not just when you're getting paid, but also cash flow, which leads to getting paid and leads to the right pricing. Look, your business is your business. Comparing yourself to other businesses is not the most important thing. So comparing your pricing to other businesses' prices is also not the only thing you need to focus on. How you can execute that job in the manner in which you do it, which will be dictated by the cash flow of the job for you, is critical to winning your bids. So let's get into that. Laying the groundwork for your cash flow in the bidding process looks pretty simple to me, okay? Here's how it should work. You wanna know what all your costs are, like you have already estimated. You certainly wanna know all your material costs, all the things you're already doing. And you wanna know the timeline for what and how you anticipate executing this project based on the actual construction schedule. Here's the next piece. Lay out for yourself exactly when you're going to spend those dollars, exactly how you're going to plan to spend those dollars along that same timeline. What it'll show you is where your cash flow gaps are going to be. Look, we all know you're going to spend a lot of cash up front, first 30 days, 60 days, no doubt about it. Okay, sure. We know you might spend some more money when you have big material purchases that are even later after that. But what we don't know is how does that cumulative effect before you're paid or during you're paid impact not only this project, how much money you need to execute this project, but also the rest of your business. And so doing that now up front is going to be critical for you to make sure that you bid it properly. Things like, what supplier am I going to use? Should I focus just on the cheapest price when I'm talking to suppliers? Can they give me the material for it in the best possible price? Or is it worth it for me to spend a little bit more money with this supplier for the material because I'm actually going to get better terms? Or should I focus on more terms with a supplier instead of price? These are all factors. Now, let me give you an example. If you are working on a project that is a $2 million job and 50% of it's going to be material, for example, and it's going to be $1 million. What if you had to spend all $1 million as a COD payment? That would be a problem. What if you had to spend $1 million, but you only had to pay for it when you actually got paid? That wouldn't be a problem. There's my easiest example to give you. But we all know that doesn't necessarily work that way. What happens is you may spend that $1 million of material along a more elongated schedule. Maybe it's 2 or 3 times you have to order that material. Maybe it's once. It all depends on the scope of work. But what's critical to know is if you have a 20% margin in a job, for example, but you have to spend 50% of the actual cash or invest 50% of the cash in that project. That's a lot different than having a 20% margin job that you only have to invest 10% of cash in that project. What do I mean by invest cash? Well, that's the amount of capital you need to get the project flowing. Look, there's a good system we all look at, and it is, how much money do I have to put on this job before it's cash flow positive? Or when is the job going to quote unquote pay for itself? Those are the types of things that are important to understand and know. Well, if you have to spend 50% of the project cost before it pays for itself, versus 10% of the project cost before it pays for itself, those are two totally different projects. Even though you're looking at a bid sheet that tells you have a 20% margin in both of those, that's a dramatically different project for you in your business if you're investing 50% of the cost, $1 million, for example, versus $200,000 or 10% of the cost. Those are the types of things that, including cash flow in your bidding process, will be able to help you determine and understand. So there's tools out there and there's ways to do this that inside the same bidding process that you do now that will not only help you understand that, but also help you effectively manage your project better, but also get better terms. Let's dive into those. There are many different cash flow tools out there. We've all heard of things like a 13-week cash flow or a project cash flow tool, or maybe you have your own spreadsheet that you've acquired from a friend, someone on your team built, or you've built your own. Either way you look at it, you need some type of tool. And look, let's be honest, most of you don't have any tools at all that you're using for cash flow, and that's okay. Maybe you don't have the tool because you know what? It's not easy. I'm not a math wizard. I'm actually, despite being in the finance business, I wasn't actually a mathematician, wasn't great at it, and I certainly wasn't great at cash flow. It was a learned skill that I've acquired through a lot of pain and suffering, but also because I had to focus on it. And having that talent on your team is all you really need. Whether they're a direct employee, someone you hire, or if you leverage somebody like Mobilization Funding who you could download a free cash flow tool right from our website with an instruction guide and use that. There's lots of ways to get this information. Get a good cash flow tool that you can feel comfortable using and support it. And now let me show you what a cash flow tool will do. It'll help you make decisions like, should I use more subcontract labor or should I use my direct labor crews? Should I order material from project or from material supplier A, B, or C? Should I use or push to get better payment terms from this particular customer because if I get paid in 30 days versus 15 days, or if I'm paid in 45 days versus 30 days, I'm going to have a big major problem. These are the kinds of things that will allow you to feel comfortable and confident asking for. So instead of going to a customer and saying, hey, look, I need 30-day terms and I want them because I just want them. You could go to them and say, I need 30-day terms because let me show you what happens if I get 45-day terms. Or if this is a 45-day job, this is what I'm going to need from you. And maybe it is direct. Maybe that's the decision between getting direct owner purchasing versus you purchasing and supplying the material as part of your contract. Maybe it's the difference between you deciding whether you want to use subcontract labor and maybe a little bit higher price, but you know you can pay them when you're paid, versus using your own direct labor at a lower cost, but you're paying them every week. These are the kinds of things that you can decide on. It's much better to see these things from a cash flow perspective during your bidding process using a cash flow tool so that you can effectively make these decisions versus getting out on the job and feeling the cash flow crunch, and now you're having to make decisions out of panic or urgency, or you're not doing it from the best position of strength, which is going to create an opportunity for you to suffer or make a mistake. And we don't want to do that. One other thing I want to touch on in this spot is creating a contingency line. Now, we all have contingency lines and we know that's a great place to put profit. It's a great place to put contingency too. But what you really want to understand is when you're doing new work for anyone, whether it's a new customer, a new scope of work, a larger project, same scope of work, different type of setup. Maybe you're out of town versus in town. Maybe you're a little farther out than you would normally go. Those specific factors and variables can create risk for your company. What do I mean by that? I mean, it's going to be more risky for you to do the job. More risk inherently means that you could have a higher cost. More risk means that you may make less money. More risk just means you're taking on more risk. What I'm going to tell you is you should be compensated for that risk. Now, does that mean that it's your customer's responsibility to pay you more just because you're taking on risk? No. But what I do mean is you need to bid more. You need to put more contingency in there. That ultimately, if your customer accepts your bid, there will be more profit in there for you inherently on the bid sheet than you might normally accustomedly put in. But you need to be compensated for the risk you're taking because there's a good chance you're not going to be as efficient with a new job, new scope, bigger scope of work than you have been before. And that lack of efficiency will cost you more money. It will increase more expense. You may have extra weeks of labor. You may have to do something over again. You may just not know what you don't know. Maybe you have a a new project manager starting that job and they're just not as efficient as your others. There's a lot of different things that you have to consider. But what's important is that you need to be paid for the risk you're taking, because you can't not take the job, but you also can't take the job at any cost and lose money. That's only going to hurt your business, your team, your employees, your family, and ultimately your customers. And it will hurt you for future jobs as well. Now let's transition to structuring payments. You're going to actually negotiate with your customer. I want to tell you guys something. When a general contractor or any customer of yours sends you a contract, that is the starting point for their basic terms. It doesn't mean it's a template. It's the template they use. It doesn't mean that it's what you have to accept. If you perform and you're doing great work and you're confident in what you're doing, you'll have the ability to negotiate some of those terms. Some of those terms you're going to just need to negotiate, because if you don't, you're going to put yourself in such a tough spot that it's going to make it harder for you to actually perform the job. And it's important for you to not only tell your customer that you need certain things that you need, but tell them why. And this is also why a cash flow is so critical, because if you can explain why you need that, hey, if I don't get this terms, then it's going to cost me this much more money, or I'm going to need this much more cash. For example, can you negotiate getting 50% of your retainage back when you get to 50% complete? Can you negotiate 30-day terms instead of 45-day terms, or 15-day terms? Or can you separate out material purchases from your labor or other scopes of work? Or maybe can you negotiate getting a payment up front or invoicing for 5 or 10% at the start of the job that maybe included part of your contingency, so you can get some cash up front to kind of get the job moving? Maybe not at the start, but you can get it invoiced earlier. All of these types of things are things that you can negotiate at the time of contract when you're designing your schedule of values. But these are not things you can just get on the job with and then try to wing it when you're in there. You should have these conversations, and more importantly, you should feel confident to have these conversations from the beginning with your customer. And the confidence is going to come from you doing the work by knowing what your cash flow is as part of the bidding process. So that is critical. So I want to reiterate, cash flow will help you decide and have which terms you want to negotiate, but also have the confidence to know why you need to negotiate those terms and then do it properly. The next thing I want to discuss with you as part of the cash flow process in bidding is this. What if you want to run different scenarios? What if you want to say to yourself in the bidding process, hey, this bid looks great, I'm going to submit it, but gosh, you know what? It's rainy season. What happens if we get a big storm and we get 3 weeks of rain or a month of rain? What happens to this job for me? Do I lose money if 3 weeks of rain happens? Do I make more money? Do I have other places to send people? What do I do? Those are the types of things and scenarios that you can run not only in your bid process just to see how much money you make or what costs you have, but knowing the costs and how you're going to incur them based on different scenarios is really critical for you to feel confident. Again, you're hearing a theme from me, I hope, and it's confidence. How do you get this confidence? How do you feel confident to bid, do the work, perform the work, negotiate with your customers? How does that happen? And it happens by you preparing. And preparing is by knowing your cash flow. So there's a cash flow tool. It's free. It's on our website, mobilizationfunding.com, resources page, cash flow tool. It's free for anyone. There's an instructional guide. You can input all this information, and everything I'm talking about today you can get from that cash flow tool. But you don't have to use it. You can use any tool. But most importantly, make sure that the cash flow tool will show you how much money you have to invest on the project before it pays for itself, i.e. cash flow positive. How do you get cash flow positive, and how much money do you have to put out there to get there? That is critical. Those are the types of items that I want you guys to focus on. So find a tool, make sure you use it, implement it with your team, and start thinking cash flow as part of your bidding process. The last thing I want to talk about as it relates to cash flow and bidding is, how do I help my bid stand out in the midst of a bunch of competition? Well, one way is price. But you know what? The lowest price stands out, but it doesn't usually win you bids. Sometimes it creates questions. Sometimes it creates an opportunity for a meeting. Sometimes a high bid gets attention too and creates the same opportunities. Here's what I want you to think about. What are the other creative ways that you can utilize the bidding process to stand out. How about you just put on the cover page not only the information that you need and the customer wants, but why don't you tell them in a short paragraph exactly what they can expect if they give you this job. This is how my employees are going to show up. This is what my team's going to deliver. This is what you can expect from me. You can expect this level of performance. This is how we're going to build it. This is why we need to build it that way. Or something in your scope of work laid out X, Y, and Z. Let me tell you why X, Y, and Z is good, but you might want to consider doing it this way or that way. I bid it for you the way you asked, but I also bid it for you doing it this way because it could be more efficient, it could save you more money. What if you stood out by creating more value up front first for your customer so they could see that you actually know what you're talking about in a different way, that you're actually thinking through the job to help them. If you're a subcontractor on a project, general contractors, architects, they don't know how to perform your specific scope of work best. If you lay out for them the best and most efficient way and it adds value to their project, you're going to stand out. That value will then be reciprocated back to you, maybe in the form of giving you the contract, but also maybe in the form of giving you the contract and being open to negotiate these terms and things with you. So here's another way that your cash flow in the bidding process, as well as standing out up front, can help you in your bid. Be creative. Do things that other people don't do, but do things that other people don't do that add value for your customer first. Give to them first before you can receive back. And trust the process. In conclusion, I hope you guys have found that including your cash flow in your bidding process is a critical item, for all the reasons we've outlined already. It is so valuable. I can promise you that the clients and the customers and the folks in our network that we see do this have not only done all of the things that I've explained in this video, but they do it consistently. Not only are they getting better work, but they're getting better work at better pricing. They're getting better work at better pricing and making it more of a profit. They're doing work more efficiently. They're actually having the confidence to not only support their team and their employees, but also their customers. They can give their customers so much more, and they're focused on performance, and their customers love them for it, and they're getting more opportunities. I promise you, if you can include cash flow in the bidding process, you'll be rewarded in the same ways. Don't be afraid to do it. Find these tools, find other people that can help you, come to us, come to whoever, but make sure you include cash flow in the bidding process. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you enjoyed what we talked about today. Do me a favor, share it with your friends. Click subscribe on the video, tell other people about it, check out our resource page, follow me on LinkedIn, and have a most blessed day. God bless you.